Tell us a little bit about the tomb you're excavating.
Well, this is burial number 11 that's been found at the Temple B1, which is the central temple from the Eastern Triadic Shrines. We started excavating this stair block, which is from the penultimate phase of construction, 2 weeks ago. And in the front of the stair block, you can see a mask. We found an intrusive burial at the top here, where we've excavated last week. And you can see also with the architecture, there's a floor that comes around here, and we think is continuous with the floor in the inside of the temple. Currently we're excavating, we're mapping actually the bones so that we can get them out of there and see if there's anything underneath. We found one early classic bowl, and we've already cleared the cranial area. Anything else? I don't know. Yeah.
Have you found any really interesting artifacts or anything?
Yes, we have indeed. And there may be more. Once we finish mapping and lift the bones, we may find more artifacts. But around or below the cranial area, we found some large rectangular jade beads, and also there were shells from the ocean.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel.
All right, Kat. So what made you guys want to come up here last year?
Last year we started working up here because back in '69, Peter Schmidt had excavated where we are right now. And he had found this elaborate tomb in here. So we wanted to focus more on the eastern side. So that's why we started working over here. We went through several floors. And then eventually we reached this massive layer of chert. And it's very common in the Maya area, if you have a large amount of chert, there should be a burial underneath. So we were expecting a burial, and underneath the chert we found capstones. And then we found a burial.
Can you tell us what a capstone is?
A capstone is a cut rock. That's me. A capstone is just a really nicely cut rock made of limestone, and it's just a square, usually maybe 90 centimeters by 30 and 20 thick. That's what we had down here. And they made a roof. They make a roof on top of your tomb chamber. So in this burial 7, we found 2 individuals and the feet of a 3rd individual. Along with that, we had a lot of grave goods, which could indicate that this person might not be a scribe, but at least he must have been literate. And this is important information because we don't know a lot about scribes. And if we compare this tomb to burial 116 from Cahal, from Temple 1, we find this similar artifacts, like the conch shell with paint. We find a similar one there, made of not conch shell but ceramic. And this person over there, he's also been associated with being literate, not necessarily a scribe, but literate. So we found a lot of good information based on that tomb last year.
And what was unique about the bodies that you found?
What was special about these bodies were that they were facing with their heads towards north instead of towards south. Usually in the Belize Valley, they are facing south, so that was very special. But the feet we found of the 3rd individual was with the feet towards north, which could indicate that it wasn't kind of a reused chamber, so they came in later, kind of pushed the 1st individual aside, and then placed these guys there, and that's why we only have the feet.
And now what about this one, the really deep down one?
We excavated over here because back in '69, as I said, Peter Schmidt excavated in this area. He didn't leave us any report or any documents of any sort except for one map of the burial. So we didn't know where on the summit, we didn't know how deep, we didn't know how wide. So we just had to kind of trace it down, focus on see if we could see where it's backfill, where it's actually the real structure. And we reached it down to this level, as you can see in this double line. And we know that was the bottom of Peter Schmidt's pit because he had been kind enough to leave us some plastic bag.
And did you find anything interesting down here?
In this one? Yes, so when we had reached Peter Schmidt's floor, we removed one large rock, and from that rock we found there was a hole in the floor, and based on that hole we peeked in and we saw this chamber. So what we had to do was just to kind of trace the edges of the chamber, and then we could start excavating it. However, from the floor and down there was already 90 centimeters, which indicates that this chamber at some point has collapsed. Whether it was due to an earthquake or whatever made it collapse, we don't know. But it made everything we have found in there swap around, mix around, except for the last burial we're working on right now. That is in a real chamber down there, and it's placed on the last floor. But some of the artifacts we found in there are a few vessels and a few pot stands. And what's very interesting about these pot stands is we don't have a lot of those. They're very rare. So it's interesting that we even find pot stands, but then we find 3 of them. So far we date this tomb to being late pre-classic, which is also very uncommon that we have late pre-classic tombs. So it's very interesting. And we have osteologists work on the bones, and what they can tell us is how the bodies were aligned. And what's interesting about this last person, who was not collapsed, only the one above, that's why it's hard to get more information from that, but the second individual we have is lying face down with his palms up and looking towards west. So it's interesting to have osteologists excavate the burials and not just an archaeologist. And also it looked like he was actually holding something in his hand. So we took samples of the soil there, and then in lab, and they will be able to see if there were any organic material in that. And what's interesting about this individual is that he was placed on top of 4 vessels, one of the pot stands and then 3 other vessels, which is really interesting. So he was like, they're all more or less like this tall, and it's just interesting. And then at some point when everything collapsed, that made the capstone that was lying on top of this chamber fall down on top of him, and that probably caused all the vessels to more or less smash. We did find one intact, but that's why his body is not quite as articulated as we could have wished for, because it must have tilted down. We also, with this individual, found a little jade pendant, and it looks very Olmec, which is very interesting too, because it tells us something about the interaction between other people in Mesoamerica. And a little jade bead. And usually you just find one bead, sometimes more if it's part of a necklace, but if you just find one, it's more or less likely that it was found in the mouth. They used to place just one jade bead in the mouth.
All right, well that sounds good.
Well, what we have here in front of us are some of the recent discoveries that were made inside of the tomb and the stair block. And this material is just incredibly exciting for us because we had hoped to find a burial in there. And normally we hope to find at least a couple ceramic vessels that will tell us something about the date that this person was buried. But then when you start to find some of the jewelry worn by this individual, it just makes it so much more wonderful. In this case, we have pieces of what must have been just a beautiful either necklace or something that was worn on this person at the time of death. It includes those 4 large tubular jade pendants and also some jade beads, and also 2 large shell pieces that are likely made from spondylus. And spondylus either came from the Pacific coast or from the Caribbean coast. But like I said, what's amazing about this is this individual has been in there for over 1,500 years. And to have, these young kids here who are working with us, and the rest of the staff and students make this discovery. It's like making history. Now, who is the person that was buried inside that tomb? Well, we know it's not just your average guy like me. You know that this person was certainly, one of the elite people, probably one of the rulers of this ancient city. And why do we say that? Well, this building that we're excavating and conserving is one of it's a family shrine of the rulers. This is where the king and queens of the ancient city of Cahal Pech were buried. And to actually be excavating these tombs is enabling us to rewrite the history, at least a part of the history of this ancient city. What is also interesting about the work that we're doing here on Structure B1 at Cahal Pech is that last summer we excavated just to the east of this tomb, and we found another royal burial. This one had some amazing discoveries. In fact, one of the unique objects that we found in there was this ink pot that still retained pigment of the colors red, black, yellow, and blue. Nobody has ever found one of these kinds of ink pots with all these colors. I think one ink pot has been found with red pigment. In addition to that, inside the tomb, we found three rings. Two of them had an inscription on it, and it told us the name of the ruler who was buried inside that tomb. And his name was, I think, something like Kawil Chan Kinich Bam. It's the royal title of the rulers of Cahal Pech. And if I didn't get that right, when you look at the painted and drawn image that Mark Zender did, you'll have it accurately there. But like I said, the discovery of these tombs, makes all that we're doing just fantastic and exciting, because we are rewriting history. We are being able to sequence the rulers who died and were buried in this location at Cahal Pech.
Thanks a lot for being with us here at Cahal Pech and checking out what we've been doing with the AFAR program. We would encourage you, if you have any interest in checking out what we're doing online or applying, to go to our website at www.goafar.org. That is www.goafar.org. Now I'm going to turn the mic over to my wife, Priscilla Saunders, who's the co-director of the RTW Service Learning Project.
We would love for you to check out our students' progress on their service learning project, a book series called Adventures of the Hero-Twins. You can see their progress updated regularly at our website, www.roundtheworldwithus.org. And one more word from our other director, Teresa Keller.
Okay, there's always something changing with the excavation, and the kids are blogging about that, and you can also check that out on the Round the World With Us website. And we'd like to thank Dr. Awe for allowing us to do this, the government of Belize, and also the BVAR program.